Hey, Brett, thanks so much for joining Talks with Tina. It's great to have you here today. And I'll jump in with a quick introduction. Brett Davis is Deloitte Consulting Global Assets Leader. He has responsibility across a portfolio of high growth asset enabled consulting offerings that are powered by innovative new technologies. That's a lot there, Brett. I love it. You have a really important role and you help in leading the development of portfolio strategy, investment prioritization, go-to-market and commercial enablement, as well as establishing, new client engagement models and the transfer of intellectual property across priority markets. Brett, it's really cool. You founded and launched Converge Health. On a personal note, it sounds like one of your goals has been to use technology and the digital exhaust of the health system to improve lives. So super admirable. I'm so glad to have you here, Brett.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. I'm super happy to be here, and talking about technology and its impact on society is exciting in general, but particularly in life sciences and healthcare, and what we've seen in the last year and the role that technology can play to really help humans in the context of their health and well-being is a super passionate area for me. So really looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's so heartwarming and inspirational, really. And I'm excited to hear about your story. So what challenges are patients facing in participating in clinical trials with the existing processes and framework as it is today?
Yeah, great question. So I think if we take a step back and just think about the experiences that patients have with healthcare in general, the possibility of improving the patient experience in healthcare, specifically within clinical trials, there's a number of unique challenges. Historically, clinical trials participation rates have been extremely low. Many studies are only open and enrolling at sophisticated academic medical centers, which frankly, most of the population doesn't have access to, and therefore doesn't even learn about a clinical trial and whether there's an opportunity to participate in it. There's certainly implications of the diversity of clinical trials as a result of that and other factors, meaning underserved minority populations have even a harder time getting access to these clinical trials. And then once you are enrolled in the clinical trial, there's a lot of steps that frankly are inconvenient. And because of that, a lot of people drop out of trials. If you live in the suburbs or in a rural area, having to drive to the academic medical center downtown, find parking, navigate getting to the right place to have data collected about you is not always a great experience, especially when in some of the clinical trials, there's not actually the need to have a physical visit or have blood taken or another sample taken. And so the process and experience of once you even find a clinical trial, once you're in it, it's not always a great experience, despite the laudable efforts of clinicians, researchers, and companies everywhere who fund and run these trials. So lots of room for improvement in that experience, in reaching more patients, as well as making sure that our trials are really representative of the population and addressing some of the challenges with underserved and minority populations.
Yeah, well, and that's really interesting when you make the point about the lack of diversity within clinical trials and really the difficulty of their participation and adherence to the process. So how can leaders begin to combat these challenges and the others that you mentioned, like using technology?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, we're all most populations are now walking around with some version of a smartphone and connectivity, to the web. And so that creates an opportunity to reach patients who might be eligible for a trial differently. It also creates opportunities to educate them about participating in a clinical trial that might benefit them in a way that comes from a trusted community member, or maybe an area of focus where that trust is there, that may not come from a white-coated doctor in an academic medical center. And so with that as kind of the backdrop, I think we're seeing a lot of novel platforms emerge, including some that we've invested in at Deloitte as part of our commitment to helping our clients and serving patients, that allow organizations, whether that be patient advocacy groups, academic centers, or biopharmaceutical or medical device companies who are innovating on behalf of patients, to reach those patients digitally in new ways, to enroll in trials, meet them where they're at in their homes, in their pockets, which should improve participation. Also, adherence is also an issue within clinical trials. So, many people have fitness apps and other things that send them reminders and nudges. Similarly, these platforms can help with adherence to the protocol of the clinical trial by sending those nudges, by providing educational content on how to do things at home that don't necessarily require oversight by a clinical professional, again, improving the experience. And then also, because the platforms are digital, if and when patients, may stop adhering, et cetera, there's the opportunity to learn why and create that learning feedback loop to improve the trial going forward and inform future trials.
Oh, there's so much going on, and it's almost like it's all exploding right now. So it's so exciting, and just love your perspectives on where we are today and where we could go and how it could really impact the broader community in such a beneficial way. The other thing I've heard about and I wanted to talk to you about is this exciting partnership and study that you're doing with Duke University called Heart of Athletes. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that study and the technology enablement related to the study? It really sounds cool.
Yeah, super, super excited about this study that was formally announced last week. So a little bit of backdrop, there's been a lot in the news about the impact of COVID on athletes and a lot of discussion in the sports as well as general media about the safety of athletes getting together. But maybe not as broadly discussed is we don't actually know a lot about the long-term effects of COVID on the heart. And in particular, sort of a tier 1 elite athlete's heart. And so Duke University has one of the leading heart centers in the world, really pushing and has a history of very innovative research across a number of cardiovascular topics to help us really move the needle on innovation in the cardiovascular space. And one of that center's leader, Dr. Manesh Patel, we ended up teaming up with, and through a grant from the Joel Cornett Foundation, they are launching what they're calling the Hearts of Athletes study that's eligible for any NCAA professional athlete or Olympic athlete to participate in. But what's really cool about it is from a clinical trial and platform perspective, is it's a direct to athlete study, meaning any athlete can go to the Hearts of Athletes study.org website, go through a digital screener to determine if they're eligible for the study. If they are, they will submit that they're interested in learning more. Duke will contact them. They download an app in the iOS App Store called Hearts of Athletes, where they then, if eligible, can do the digital consent all within the app, and then get the instructions and education through the app in terms of their participation in the study. Where we play a role and where we've teamed is we have a platform called the Converge Health MyPath platform, which is a cloud-based digital platform that powers all of the security, the consent, the collection of all that data from the athletes, stores it, manages it in a way that it then powers the study and interacts with the app to collect that data. And basically we'll have a large study where athletes from all over the United States can participate without ever having to go to a particular academic center or health system, and then interact remotely. It's called what's called a decentralized clinical trial. And in this case, it's a direct to athlete study. So what we're hoping to see is that many athletes participate, and over time, we get a really cleaner picture of the impact of COVID on elite athletes' hearts and their performance over time.
I just want to thank you for all you're doing to really move forward in a positive way, the use of technology and these tools for a greater good. And I just want to thank you again for your time today, Brett, and for sharing such a cool story.
Yeah, absolutely. Really enjoyed the discussion, and despite some of the challenges we face, I think the future is really bright.